Last year, Elon Musk stood on a stage and said his big AI project was great. 3 weeks later, he shut it down and called it a dead end. Now, he is back on stage with a brand new project, $25 billion TeraFab. And the internet went crazy, everyone is excited. But the people managing billions of dollars, the institutional investors, and the ones who actually move the markets, they are not celebrating the same way. Because 80% of what this factory builds does not even go to Tesla. And this is just the start. The machine that needed to make these chips cost $380 million each. There is only one company in the world that makes it with a 2-year waiting list. No confirmed order from Tesla yet anyway. So who is actually paying for this? And who is actually benefiting? Those are the two questions I could not stop thinking about after I read everything. I've held Tesla for years. It is my biggest position. So when this came out, I did not go celebrate with everyone else. I went and digested everything. The earnings call, the filings, the court documents, Elon's own words on stage. What I found, I had to make this video. If you hold Tesla or you are thinking about buying after this announcement, stay with me. On March 21st, 2026, Elon walked on a stage at an old abandoned power plant in Austin, Texas. He announced a project called TeraFab, a joint venture between Tesla, SpaceX, and xAI. The target is to produce 1 terawatt of AI compute every year. Using 2nm chips, the most advanced chip technology that exists on Earth today. And the whole plan is to do everything under one roof. Design, fabrication, memory, packaging, and testing, all in the same building. One quick thing about the name. Giga means billion, Tera means trillion. He's literally telling you this is one full level bigger than everything he has built before. No production timeline was announced at the event. Now, why is he doing this? His logic is real and worth understanding before we get to the part most people missed. Cybercab needs chips. Optimus needs chips. Full self-driving needs chips. The world produces about 100 million cars every year. Elon's target for Optimus robots is between 1 billion and 10 billion units per year. Every single one needs a chip more powerful than what is in your laptop today. TSMC and Samsung are the two biggest chip makers on Earth. Even if they expanded as fast as physically possible, it would still not come close to what Elon says he will need. His exact words on stage: we either build TeraFab or we don't have the chips. TSMC and Samsung are the only two restaurants in a city of 1 billion people. The line outside already goes around the block. And every year, Elon wants to add another 1 billion hungry customers. At some point, waiting in line is no longer an option and you have to build your own kitchen. Does that make sense? So that logic is solid. But here is the first thing almost no one covered. Elon said it himself on stage. Only 20% of TeraFab's output is going to Tesla cars, Optimus, and Cybercab. The other 80% is going to orbital AI satellites in space. SpaceX has already filed with the US government to launch 1 million AI satellites. Tesla is funding a chip factory, but most of the chips are going to space, to a SpaceX project, not to Tesla products. So why does space make sense? Solar energy in orbit is 5 times stronger than on the ground. No atmosphere, no night, no clouds. On the ground, the more data centers you build, the harder it gets. Land runs out, power grids fill up. In space, those problems do not exist. That sounds incredible, but this is where it gets more complicated than it sounds. Space feels cold, but cooling in space is actually one of the hardest engineering problems in this entire plan. On Earth, you cool a data center with air and water. In space, there is no air and no water. The only way to remove heat is to radiate it out slowly through large flat panels pointing away from the sun. The International Space Station runs about 100 kilowatts of power, and it needs radiator panels the size of a basketball court just to manage that amount of heat. A former NASA engineer who also spent 10 years at Google wrote publicly that this is a physics constraint nobody has solved at the scale Elon is describing. The space vision is not impossible, but it is not the free lunch it sounds like either. Now, here is the thing I could not stop thinking about after I read all of this. To make 2 nanometer chips, you need a machine made by a Dutch company called ASML. It is called a high-NA EUV lithography machine. One machine costs around $380 million. ASML has a years-long waiting list. And as of the day of this announcement, no confirmed order from Tesla appears anywhere in ASML's order books. You told the world you are building the tallest skyscraper in history, but you have not ordered the bricks yet. And the only factory in the world that makes those bricks has a 2-year waiting list. The clock on a chip factory does not start on the day of the announcement. It starts the day the equipment is secured. Are you getting this? Now, look at what a real chip fab timeline actually looks like. TSMC started building its Arizona fab in 2020. The most experienced chip fab builder in the world with 35 years of doing nothing else. It took them 5 full years from first construction to first chip, and it is still ramping today. Samsung started a fab in Taylor, Texas in 2021. It was supposed to start production in late 2024. It is now 2026 and still not at full production. Intel planned a new fab in Ohio. Original target was 2025, now delayed to 2030. A 5-year delay before a single chip, and Intel has been building fabs for decades. The pattern is clear. For companies with 30 to 40 years of experience, the minimum time from construction start to first chip is 4 to 6 years. And almost every recent example has taken longer than planned. Now, here is the number I want you to sit with. TSMC Arizona, after 5 years by the world's most experienced team, will produce 100,000 wafers starts per month. TeraFab's target is 1 million wafer starts per month, 10 times larger, built by a company that has never fabricated a single chip in its life. Tesla designs chips brilliantly. Their AI4 chip is legitimately one of the best inference chips in the world. But TSMC builds those chips. Tesla has never touched the manufacturing side. Designing a chip and building a chip are completely different skills. Tesla is a brilliant architect who has never once picked up a tool and built the building themselves. If experienced companies take 4 to 6 years and still face delays, and TeraFab is 10 times the scale, and Tesla is starting from zero with no equipment ordered, a realistic first chip from TeraFab is probably 2030 at the earliest, more likely 2031 or 2032. Sit with that number for a second. That is not a reason to say it will never happen. It is a reason to be honest about what you are paying for today. And then I went back to Tesla's own history, and I found something I had to sit with. In 2019, Tesla started a project called Dojo, a custom-built supercomputer to train Tesla's self-driving AI. For 6 years, Elon talked about it constantly. It was essential. It was the future of full self-driving. Tesla committed $500 million to build a Dojo facility in Buffalo, New York. On Tesla's earnings call in July 2025, less than a year ago, Elon said these exact words: Dojo 2 is good, Dojo 3 will be great. 3 weeks later, he shut down the entire team. The lead engineer left the company. 20 people walked out and started their own competing startup. Elon called Dojo an evolutionary dead end. 3 weeks from will be great to dead end. Now he is back on stage calling TeraFab the most epic chip project in human history. Same energy, same certainty, different project name. Does that pattern feel familiar to you? Now, I want to be fair. Rockets that land themselves and got reused. The world's best-selling electric vehicles. The largest satellite network ever built. Things serious people said were impossible. He proved them wrong. That track record is real and it matters. But inside that track record, there is a pattern most people do not talk about. He almost never hits his own timeline. The thing eventually happens, just not when he said it would. And sometimes a project gets shut down and replaced entirely before it gets there. So the real question about TeraFab is not whether it will happen in some form. It probably will. The question is whether Tesla shareholders will still be in a strong position when that moment finally arrives. Which brings me to the money, because this is where the story gets uncomfortable. In 2025, after all investments and spending, Tesla's free cash flow was $6.2 billion. And going into 2026, Tesla told investors to expect capital spending of over $20 billion, more than double what they spent in 2025. But here is the key part. TeraFab is not included in that $20 billion. Tesla's own CFO confirmed this at the event. The $25 billion TeraFab cost sits completely on top. So you have $6.2 billion coming in and $20 billion going out before TeraFab even starts. Tesla ended 2025 with $44 billion in cash. That sounds like a big cushion until you see how fast the numbers move. Tesla's own official filing says the company may decide to raise additional capital. In plain language, that means selling new shares. When a company does that, every share you already hold becomes a slightly smaller piece of the company. Tesla did exactly this in 2020. They quietly raised $12 billion. At current valuation, Tesla could raise $10 to $15 billion by diluting shareholders by just 1 to 2%. Watch for this, and watch the timing. The SpaceX IPO is expected around June 2026. If Tesla raises money before SpaceX goes public, both Musk companies are going to the market at the same time. The smarter move is to wait until after. Whichever order it happens tells you something real about how tight the cash actually is. Now, look at who controls the money. Elon owns 13% of Tesla. He owns 43% of SpaceX and controls 79% of the world's day. Tesla's own filing says, in black and white, that most of Elon's wealth now comes from companies other than Tesla. TeraFab is a three-way joint venture, but SpaceX is saving cash for its IPO. xAI is being rebuilt from scratch. The company putting in the most money is likely Tesla. But 80% of what TeraFab produces goes to serve the SpaceX business. You and two friends agree to start a business together. You put in most of the money, but 80% of what the business earns goes to help your friend's other company, the one he owns 3 times more than yours. Does that feel right to you? Hold that question. One more number that barely got mentioned. TeraFab at full scale needs more than 10 gigawatts of continuous electricity. Malaysia's entire national grid capacity is roughly 30 gigawatts, serving 33 million people. TeraFab alone wants 10 of those gigawatts just for one factory. And this type of arrangement is not new. In 2016, Tesla paid $2.6 billion to buy SolarCity, a company run by Elon's own cousins. Elon was chairman of both companies at the same time. Tesla shareholders sued him. The court ruled he did not break the law, but the judge wrote one line across 132 pages that said, Elon was more involved in the process than someone in his position of conflict should have been. Most of us who hold Tesla bought it because of Elon Musk, the person. So when he moves Tesla resources toward SpaceX, our natural reaction is, he knows what he is doing, I trust the vision. That feeling is real and it is not wrong. But large institutions do not invest that way. When Tesla's money funds a factory where 80% of the output benefits a different company that Elon owns 3 times more of, they ask whether Tesla shareholders are getting a fair return. And some of them go to court to ask that question. A group of Tesla shareholders is already in court right now over AI talent moved from Tesla to xAI. SolarCity was a $2.6 billion deal. TeraFab is $25 billion. The same structure, nearly 10 times the size. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but here are 3 things I'm personally watching. First, does Tesla announce a capital raise before or after the SpaceX IPO? SpaceX is expected to go public around June 2026. If Tesla raises money before that, both Elon companies are asking the market at the same time. If it comes after, that is the calculated window. The order it happens in tells you something real about how tight the cash actually is. Second, does a confirmed ASML order from Tesla appear publicly before the end of 2026? No order means no factory. If nothing is confirmed by the end of this year, then even the most optimistic production timeline becomes very hard to defend. This is the single most concrete signal of whether TeraFab is a real construction project or still a plan on paper. Third, listen carefully to how Elon talks about TeraFab on the next 2 earnings calls. 8 months ago, he said Dojo 2 was good and Dojo 3 would be great. 3 weeks later, it was shut down. The certainty softened before the announcement came. Pay attention to the language. If the framing starts to shift or the timeline starts to move, you will hear it before any official statement. That pattern has happened before. One last thing before I close. A senior analyst at Wedbush Securities said publicly that TeraFab may be the opening signal of a former Tesla and SpaceX merger. His estimate is as early as 2027. If that happens and Tesla shareholders end up with a stake in the combined entity, then everyone who held through all of this, through the losses, the dilution, the court cases, the missed timelines, could end up being the biggest winners of the whole story. That possibility is real and I am not dismissing it. I've held Tesla for a long time. I am not selling because of this video, but I want to know exactly what I am holding. Right now, the structure looks like this. Tesla pays, SpaceX benefits most. A judge has already flagged this exact type of arrangement once before, and that deal was 1/10 the size of this one. You can believe in the vision and still ask these questions. Those two things are not opposites. This is what I told myself when I went and read everything. And now you have the full picture too. If this gave you a clearer picture, subscribe and share with someone who holds Tesla. They need to see this too.